Hey everyone, and welcome to another Warframe video. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about the Nyx Rework today, and whether I think that anything's really going to change in terms of her usability and just people using her really. The buffs to her the other day were definitely really rather decent. I quite enjoyed them, and I think it has made a difference to her kit. But I don't honestly think they went far enough. I still don't think that she really does anything particularly strong compared to anybody else. I think that honestly, in terms of straight up crowd control, Limbo actually still is stronger for straight up crowd control, which is kind of unfortunate. So I would like to see a couple more changes to her abilities just to give her a little bit more of an edge. And that's sort of what I wanted to talk about in this video. I've had a couple of ideas. I've reached out and spoken to a friend of mine, De Facto, and we've sort of talked about the whole Nyx thing and what we sort of think might be some reasonable changes for her. So I wanted to go through sort of ability by ability and, you know, sort of give them to you guys and see what you think, pretty much. So, mind control. Mind control, as it is, with the stacking of damage, isn't too bad. The damage stacking is kind of, I don't know, how are we going to put it? Inconsistent, I guess? The amount of times I've, tried to stack damage, and I get, massively varying numbers each time. It's slightly bizarre. I can stack the same thing, time after time, and sometimes I get 2000%, sometimes I get 800%. And that doesn't make any sense. Plus the fact that Mind Freak still doesn't show up in the, Mind Freak that still doesn't show up on the UI anywhere. That doesn't really sort of give a true indication of how much damage you're actually doing. So that would be definitely something really rather nice to do. But more than that, I actually would like to see Mind Control become an ability that is actually channeled, rather than being duration based. I like the whole damage stacking thing, but I kind of wish you didn't have to do it every 30 seconds or whatever your duration is, because that actually over the course of a long mission actually becomes really rather annoying. So honestly, I would much rather have a channeled ability that allows us to have that sort of control. So you stack the damage and then just not have to, you just worry about maintaining it rather than having to find someone else and then restack the damage again. I would much prefer that. That, I think, would make the mind control a lot better. But I also think they really need to take a look at the AI, because the AI is not very smart, to be perfectly honest with you. So I would really like to see them give that another look and either make the AI stick closer to Nyx, or they really should, I don't know, make it more aggressive. The amount of times I've seen them just, take cover randomly behind a box and never move. It's ridiculous. So, and Nyx relies on AI. She relies on enemy AI for her damage. So that really needs to be looked at for, for her actual damage output, because otherwise it's just, I don't know. Otherwise her abilities are suffering because of Warframe's AI, rather than, it's definitely not helping, that's for sure. At the moment, I'm not entirely sure where my mind control target is. He's over here. Oh, there he is. But he's not shooting right now. He's not actually shooting. Now he is. But he was just, in a stage where he isn't doing anything. I don't know where he's gone now. I'm just going to follow him around and actually sort of see what he's doing. Now he actually is firing. This shows that mind control actually is decent when it's firing. There you go. He's just stood in the corner doing nothing. That is mind control. That's mind control to a T right there. They really, for mind control to work and to be good, they need to look at the AI. Because otherwise you get situations like that, where your ability is completely wasted and he just hides in a corner. I'm not a big fan of that. So they need to look at it, make it more aggressive, or it just needs to stick to Nyx a bit more. it's invincible, so it shouldn't have to worry about its own safety. So it really should be like more, more aggressive from that point. But we should sort of move on. I don't really have anything more to say about mind control. Like, I think that's pretty much everything. Psychic Bolts. Psychic Bolts, goddamn, that's strong now. The ability to completely remove all defenses is very, 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 very strong. It's very strong, and like I really like that quite a bit. But at the same time, that recastability thing, the hold for 2 seconds to actually recast, is really annoying. And it's just too long. That needs to be cut by like 75% or something. Really does. So that's one thing I would like to see. But I would also like to see either they up the amount of bolts, which are then scaling with power strength, or the bolts get the priority system that is built into Necrosis 4. Necrosis 4 basically will like decide on who to summon based on like an inbuilt priority system. So if like a certain enemy is gonna be like rated higher, it's sort of rated higher than another one. So like a nullifier is rated higher than like a crewman sort of thing, and that would be really, really good for Nyx's Psychic Bolts. Because let's be honest, Nyx is a psychic-based frame, right? She knows in her mind who are the strongest minds, and those are likely to be the strongest units. So there is no reason why Nyx shouldn't be able to, make sure her Psychic Bolts go to the strongest targets. And that would actually make the 6-target thing not so bad. But if that isn't able to be implemented, I would say that then it definitely needs to scale a bit with power strength. So you get like extra bolts. So up to maybe like 10 or something. I don't think it would be too bad. Because like half of them are going to go on trash mobs that don't need debuffing anyway. So like, because most of the time right now you actually end up missing the high priority targets you actually want to take the defenses away from. So I think that would actually be a reasonable change. I would much rather see the priority system come in than the scalability with power strength. I think that would be more interesting, and it would be a much more interesting solution than simply more. But, you know, it's obviously going to be to do with limitations on the game sort of thing, whether, you know, what's actually possible or not. And then, so Chaos is, I think Chaos is absolutely fine. De facto talked about the possibility of making it channeled, and then just have it, like, active, pretty much like Chaos Sphere, just straight up active the entire time. I'm not a huge fan of that idea, but I can see how it might be useful. I don't know, it's one of those things I'd like to see you guys sort of talk about in the comments, maybe. I don't mind as it is. I think Chaos is actually a really damn good ability, as we go through our second host migration. I think Chaos is a really damn good ability. I like it a lot. And I think that I don't really think it should be changed very much, in all honesty. And then we've got Absorb, which is still utter trash. Absorb is a terrible, terrible ability. It's, even after the changes, it's still bad. Like, I really, really don't understand why Absorb didn't have more of a look at. As a damage ability, it's utter crap. It's so bad. Like, everything resists it. Like, even with the new idea of, like, the damage type of, like, the highest damage type of the incoming damage being released as the damage type of the wave, still doesn't work particularly well, because, I mean, for a start, you don't know what it is. That you have no visual indication as to what that damage type is actually going to be. So, I really, really don't understand where they were going with that. we actually had an idea, like a pretty cool idea for the some changes to that ability, like straight up changes, not like a buff to it, straight up changing it, which is that it pretty much becomes Nyx's defensive ability and kind of works like a built-in adaptation, like a psychic version of adaptation. So instead of the damage incoming being released as like as a wave of damage, like that still could happen because the damage wave barely scales, so at lower level it still might be useful, but at higher level, you know, it doesn't do bugger all anyway, so, you know, that's not really a big deal. But what it does is the damage types that it absorbs, it actually sort of stacks a resistance to it, like psychic armor pretty much. And that would mean, so like, if an enemy is doing mostly impact damage, let's say, because I think a heavy gunner is mostly impact, if I remember rightly. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's mostly impact. But if, so say for example a heavy gunner is opening up on you and doing massive amounts of impact damage into the thing, it would build up like a resistance to impact damage from Nyx. Now, I also would like to suggest that not be a timed thing as well, but sort of like, I guess almost like Inaras's armor on his 4, that basically, I mean, it works slightly different, but, so rather than duration based, what happens is, like, the impact damage coming in would chip away at that psychic armor, sort of like, representing Nyx's, like, psychic hold over them, sort of failing a little bit as she's in combat and taking damage. So that would give her some much-needed survivability, I think, when enemies turn around and trying to kill her. I really, really think that would be kind of a cool idea, and would replace the kind of garbage absorb that we have now. This also would mean that Assimilate is basically exactly the same as it is now. Because I like Assimilate. I don't think there's any problem with it whatsoever. And I actually would just really like to see it remain the same. But there needs to be an incentive to to actually use Absorb. Right now, there isn't. There's no incentive to use Absorb whatsoever. Because like, the damage output isn't worth it. Like, the only reason to use it is really for you know, I always try and keep my videos PG, but an oh crap button in, like, in bad situations. But then if it's gonna remain like that, it really should heal Nyx. Like, it should heal her up to max whilst you're in Absorb. So you can just be like, oh, it's all going wrong. Now I can pop my 4, get some health back, and I'll be okay. I don't know. It's a hard one because you don't want to kind of lose the you don't want to lose the core idea of Absorb, which is I actually like. But then also you need to actually make it useful because it's not right now. It is utter trash. I don't know. I think the changes to Mind Control and the Psychic Bolts could be something that would be a game changer for her. Absorb needs to go back to the drawing board. It needs to be reworked from the ground up. Because I'm really not a fan of Absorb whatsoever. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you've enjoyed this sort of talky, discussion-y type video. I do want to say though, Nyx isn't bad. She is not a bad frame. But I don't think the rework went quite far enough for her to give her some of the much needed, like, quality of life that she needs as well. The rework will not have converted people that don't like Nyx into playing her. She is not, like, the rework wasn't good enough for that. It was good for those Nyx players that really enjoyed Nyx because it improved some of the things. I mean, it gave her mind control back and it gave her good psychic bolts. So we have 3 abilities instead of just the one ability. So for Nyx players, it was fantastic. But for anybody else, it just wasn't good enough, I don't think, to bring people into playing Nyx. Like I say, let me know what you think in the comments below. Just thought I'd do a bit of a discussion, talky type video. Maybe I should do some of these for other frames as well. If you'd like to know my thoughts on other frames and like areas I think could be improved in other frames, let me know as well. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye!